There are many different metals, and we choose the metal with the properties that best suit the job. This tower is made of steel for strength and coated with zinc for protection from corrosion. The blades are aluminum because it's light and also corrosion resistant. The electric cables are copper because it's a good conductor. The recording and replay heads on a VCR need to be light, so they're made of an aluminum alloy. Aluminum mixed with small amounts of other metals. Jewelry must stay shiny and not cause skin reactions, so it's made of gold or platinum. Non-ferrous metals are metals that are not iron. The first non-ferrous metal to be discovered was gold. It doesn't corrode, so it's found as the pure metal. It's expensive because it's rare, and it's rare because it's heavy. Because of its weight, most of the world's gold has sunk down into the center of the Earth. The Earth's crust is made up mainly of light elements. Gold is very malleable and can be beaten into a very thin foil and used to coat statues or jewelry. Even after thousands of years, it is still as shiny as ever. When it's used in jewelry, gold is usually mixed with silver or copper to strengthen it and make it cheaper. Gold is the best conductor of electricity, so it's used to coat computer plugs. The connections work every time because there is no oxide coating to interfere with the electricity. Silver is similar to gold in that it's also used for decoration in jewelry and silverware. However, it's easily tarnished by hydrogen sulfide in the air and needs to be polished quite often. Silver is cheap nowadays because it's not needed as much in the making of film stock. And in jewelry, it has been mostly replaced by stainless steel. Silver solder is used to join copper parts. It's made of silver, copper, and zinc, and has a higher melting point than normal solder. Copper is similar to gold and silver. It is soft and a good electrical conductor. It's the third most used metal after iron and aluminum. Copper is the metal of choice for wiring most electrical machinery, appliances, and power supplies. It's also used for household water pipes, as it doesn't corrode in water. It can easily be bent to change direction. And it's easy to join by soldering. Brass is an alloy of copper and zinc, usually around 70% copper and 30% zinc. It has a distinctive color, and it's malleable, so it can be worked into complex shapes. But it's harder than copper, so it wears better. This is important where products have moving parts. Brass is highly corrosion resistant. This is an advantage for a product constantly subjected to the moisture and salts and saliva. A low copper content produces brass that's harder. This kind of brass is used for tap handles and window and door fittings. They're usually made by casting. These ancient Chinese statues are made of bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. It's easy to cast and can be left outside without corroding. Bronze is strong and was used to make tools and weapons such as spears and swords. This metal brought about the Bronze Age. Bells are made of bronze because of the sustained notes it produces and its corrosion resistance. Bell metal has a high tin content, up to 1 part in 4. These two sections of the bike frame are brazed together with bronze, which was melted onto the surfaces. Bronze brazing is used where the heat of welding would ruin the temper of the steel or ruin thin sections. This bronze cannon has a much lower tin content, probably around 10%. Because this type of bronze is highly resistant to corrosion and very hard wearing, it's used for gears and bearings in machinery. If a little lead and phosphorus is added, it becomes even harder, phosphor bronze. Zinc is a soft metal, relatively cheap and not easily corroded. It has a low melting point, allowing steel to be dipped in molten zinc in a hot dip galvanizing process. Zinc is used mainly to coat steel and prevent it rusting. It forms a hard layer of zinc oxide on the surface. In this plant, the steel sheet is passing through a bath of molten zinc-alum. Zinc-alum is an alloy made of zinc and aluminum. Tin is another metal mined in ancient times. It's used as a corrosion-resistant coating that gives a silver finish, as on the valves and mouthpiece of a trumpet. Tin is most often used as a protective coating on steel, like on these cans. Nowadays, cans are often coated with a clear varnish. Solder is an alloy of tin and lead and is useful because it has such a low melting point. Aluminum alloys are widely used in aircraft construction, where lightweight is critical. The leading edge of these wing flaps is made of aluminum, alloyed with about 3% copper. It's easy to machine. This is important for repairs as well as construction. Because aluminum is corrosion resistant, it can be used without painting, plating, or other protection.
It's very close to 100 pounds or 45 kilos.
The natural oxide coating can be thickened by a process called anodizing to give a smoother, hard-wearing surface. Dyes can be added to produce colored finishes. One of the major uses of aluminum alloys is in the canning of drinks. Aluminum is highly ductile. This means the sides and base of the cans can be made in one piece. They're simply drawn down and pressed out on a flat sheet. And because aluminum is so light, it's cheaper to transport. Because it's malleable, a thin sheet of aluminum holds its new shape. Aluminum has a very low melting point. Once it's molten, the oxide coating can no longer protect it, so it then oxidizes very easily. It's expensive because a lot of energy is required to process it from the aluminum oxide ore, bauxite. This is why it is so eagerly recycled. Nickel is harder than iron, but it's too brittle to use on its own. Nickel is commonly alloyed with softer metals like copper and aluminum to make coins more hard-wearing. These coins look like silver, but they're actually copper-nickel alloys. In the US and Canada, a nickel is a 5-cent coin. Nickel is alloyed with chromium, iron, and carbon to produce stainless steel. Titanium is a fantastic metal with the density of aluminum and the strength of steel. It doesn't corrode. It's used in military aircraft and climbing equipment where lightweight and strength are critical, and price is not. It's also used inside the human body to repair and strengthen bones. Sometimes stainless steel is used as well. Titanium is difficult to cut. Here it's being cut by a high-pressure water jet with abrasive in it. Magnesium is the lightest of the common metals and is usually combined with aluminum. You'll often see this alloy in car wheels to make them lightweight. Magnesium catches fire easily and is used in fireworks as a powder, producing a bright white light. So it's important not to use magnesium near open flames. The main disadvantage of steel is that it rusts. It needs to be protected by a coating that doesn't corrode, such as paint or a non-ferrous metal. Roofing iron is coated in zinc, which doesn't corrode in air or water. If the surface is meant to be shiny and wear-resistant, then chromium is the best. This shaft has to slide through an oil seal without leaking. If it was corroded or scratched, it would ruin the seal, and the oil would leak out. Nickel is similar to chromium and almost as hard. Both are put onto the base metal by electroplating. In nickel and chromium plating, a series of chemical baths clean the surface before the electroplating deposits a thin, even layer of nickel. In this case, only certain parts are to be plated, so the rest is coated with wax. The thickness of the coat can be controlled by the length of time the plating continues. Copper is a good conductor, so it spreads the heat evenly over the bottom of the pot. But it's too soft. The best solution is for the pot to have a stainless steel body with a copper bottom. Copper reacts with carbon dioxide in the air to form a green compound, copper carbonate. As this process takes a few years, manufacturers nowadays produce this green color in the factory. Aluminum oxides easily, forming a strong layer that protects the aluminum below. This stops any further corrosion, and it's one reason aluminum is often used outdoors. Chromium and nickel oxidize in the air, but the oxide layer, which is clear, prevents any more oxygen reacting with the metal. Many other non-ferrous metals are corrosion resistant because their oxide layers are impervious to oxygen. This is why zinc and aluminum are corrosion resistant. Heat treatment can change a material's properties. Working this copper hardens it and makes it brittle. If we quench it, that is, heat it, then rapidly cool it, the effect is to soften the copper. The opposite happens to steel. Metals are all good electrical conductors, but some are better than others. Here, we have three circuits. The one on the left has copper wire, the middle one, aluminum, and on the right, steel. We switch between the circuits, applying the same electric voltage to each circuit. This gauge measures the resistance of the wire. The further to the right it moves, the larger the resistance. This is the result for the steel wire, for the aluminum, and for the copper wire. Copper shows the least resistance. In other words, it conducts electricity better than aluminum, and much better than steel. Even though copper is the best conductor, many high-voltage power lines are made of aluminum. Aluminum is lighter than copper, so the towers can be built to withstand less weight. And aluminum is cheaper than copper, so it makes sense economically. Using different metals together can be troublesome. Joining copper to zinc, for example, will produce an electrochemical reaction. It will generate electricity. This is great if you want a battery, but if you're connecting pipes together, you'll have corrosion. Plumbers prevent this from happening with Teflon tape. You can use steel bolts on aluminum, zinc, or chromium because the oxide layer prevents electricity flowing. Some combinations work, some don't. These have been a few of the many factors you'll need to consider the next time you have to choose the right metal for the job.